Hi, I'm Niraj Mulani, Director of Community at Product10x. We have a bludgeoning portfolio that vouches by our co-creator model, but there are still a lot of people out there who want to understand what do we really mean by the co-creator model when we say Product10x is a SaaS-focused co-creator. And to answer our questions, we are joined by who's the co-founder of Product10x. So Suresh, please help us understand what do we really mean by co-creator?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the opportunity, Niraj. Hi, everyone. A little bit of context, and then I'll go into your question. And a lot of startups, when we start the initial journey, there are thousands of decisions that you need to make every single day. And the decisions are right from my co-founders, what should they be doing, what are the responsibilities, and all the way to product, what's my immediate roadmap versus the future roadmap, and then what should I be looking at, what's my technology strategy, should I be going with the or Google Cloud, whatever that means, and then finally, what's my go-to-market strategy, who is my ideal customer profile, how should I reach them, and what's my pipeline going to look like, how should I really construct my email sequences and whatnot. So as you can imagine, founders are dealing with thousands of questions and decision-making process every single day. And what happens really is, if you are a solo founder, or even if you have multiple co-founders in a way, you really are into the problem day in and day out. That's what you are doing. And as part of that, you really need that external advisor, mentor, who is really looking into your problem, your opportunity that you are really dealing with, and then be able to give you that advice. These are typically the advisors and mentors who's been there, done that. Either they have the in-depth domain knowledge or technology, product angle. Again, one advisor or rather one size doesn't fit all. Clearly, that's the reason why you go to any great startup or big companies, there are sizable advisors, right? And the reason why that is important for us is, in this context, there are a lot of startups that we worked with in the past 3 years, close to about 380 at this point of time. And everyone has a single question as to say, hey, we've been to some other accelerators, and then how do we really get the maximum value out of being as part of that? It's not needed for me to get these lectures from some of the partners on one day you have, oh, how do you find your product market fit? That is great. You go to the YouTube or you go to any place, you search for how to find product market fit, you will get hundreds of quality videos. That's great. But for my specific startup, how do I get that advice? How do I get actionable insights is really the problem that we are trying to solve with the co-creation model, right? By that, what we mean really is, it's not really about 1 week, 1 month, or 3 months. We're actually there with the startup for a minimum period of 1 year, working with the founders on a weekly basis, working through all critical problems that they are having, as though we are actually be there as their own co-founders. And that's exactly where we started calling this as a co-creation model, because we, being the previous founders ourselves, we understand that it's not just helpful where you call somebody and then take a half an hour advice, because that's probably within half an hour, how much of problem can you explain, and then how much of advice can other person provide. So that's exactly the reason why we have this concept, what we call as the co-creation model, so that we are in this journey with you in the long term, and your success is what we are rooting for.
Right. And you touched upon some of these key aspects that are really unique to our co-creator model. And I'd love to double click on that to understand how is the co-creator model really different from other accelerators.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first things first is, we are not here to just give you a 10-point checklist and then say, you go figure out, you do it, and then go for it. But we are here to really look at what problems the founder is going through at this point of time. It's not just about what problems founder is going through, but then are they the right problems that you should be worrying about at this point of time? That's number one. Number two, for every challenge that you are going through, for every decision that you need to make, there are several paths. We all understand that. And we are here to really look at 1, 2, 3 different paths that you may go through, and then really talk through as to say, if we take the option 1, what's our upside and what should we be really thinking through from the downside point of view. And then we actually go through those decision making process with the founders day in and out, and that's exactly what our founders appreciate of us. So we are not really here to say, hey, you go figure out on what the security posture for your product and the company should look like, but we are here to really talk through as to say, hey, this is what we mean by SOC 2 compliance, let's say, and should you be doing it right now, or is it okay if you can do it in the next couple of quarters? So that's really the kind of discussion that we would like to have with the founders, and then provide them the right inputs for their own decision making, right? So we are in this process together just so founders can really have that self-discovery process for themselves, instead of we talking through, hey, you know what, you went there, you did on your own, and see, I told you so. That's not really who we are, and that we don't do that with our founders. But it's really as to say, hey, we discussed about all these options, you went, executed something, which is fine, but here is what our discovery process is. Here is what we learned out of this particular decision-making process. And that's what a lot of our founders appreciate of us. That's number two. Number three, finally, is what we really call as working backwards, right? It's definitely a very famous Amazon way of doing things, but we really look at each and every founder, what they want to do. Let's say the idea is in the next 18 months, I want to go to seed to Series A. And now the question would be, okay, what is it that we need for you to be able to go to Series A, and then really go back and then say, in these Q4, Q3, Q2, Q1, here are the milestones that we need to achieve. And now really going down from there, saying that, okay, if these are the milestones that we need to achieve, do we have the right resources? Do we have the right team with us? And what is our runway? What is our revenue strategy? What is our sales strategy? So these are the really the day-to-day things that we actually work with the founders. And that's exactly what we mean by co-creation strategy, which nobody else does at this point of time. Clearly, because many of the startup accelerators, Niraj, they are probably 2 to 3 months duration. And once the founders come out of that acceleration aspect of it, either on the demo day, they get the money, the funding, or they are out of it and then they are on their own. And that's exactly where we feel founders should be able to have much more of a support than what traditional accelerators provide. And that's why Product10x is very unique in that space where we provide the co-creation model.
Got it. And in terms of the areas that we help startups, I know you touched upon the vast expanse of areas that we help startups with, especially because it changes day to day for startup to startup. But on a macro level, what all things would we be helping the startups with that gets them fundraise ready?
Absolutely. That's a great question. So we believe there are 3 core pillars for our co-creation process. We actually lead with, as Product10x, clearly we are a product-led growth and product-led sales accelerator. We make sure that each and every founder that we are working with is really looking at PLG as their one of the growth strategy, right? That's really who we are. So number one is definitely making sure that the founders and the team understands product-led growth. Number two, really about, okay, now that we have a product and then we have probably set of beta customers, are we sales ready? And a lot of it is related to what we call as Do we have the ICP defined? Do we have the right sales process? And when we have the, let's say you are a freemium model, but what is the way for you to convert these users from freemium to, let's say, paid? And that's really where we focus a lot on that sales readiness aspect of it, as to really talk about what is the CRM are you using, what is the pipeline that you have, how are you reaching out to your customers, is it via LinkedIn, emails, cold calls, whatever that strategy that you're really thinking through. And then the last one, really what we call as the readiness, right? When it comes to the fundraise readiness, there are a lot of founders that we helped us to say, everybody thinks that, hey, you know what, if I have a product and then a website and then I have a bunch of customers, I can just go raise funds on my own, which is, I think, sometimes true, but that's more of an exception than norm. What happens really is you're really talking through the pitch deck. What's the problem that you are trying to solve? What's your solution? What's the market opportunity? Who are your users? What's your traction so far? And what's your team? Why should somebody believe in your team that they can execute? These are all the very essential components of the pitch deck. And very often we see pitch decks, 20 slides, 30 slides and whatnot. And then there is so much of text that somebody puts in over there because everybody thinks the more information that I have over there, the more I have the success. But actually, it is counterintuitive, right? You want these slides to be able to use and really make it good enough that an investor is really looking to have a conversation with you. And it is really up to you to really talk through that opportunity, that story that you have, and the growth that you are having at this point of time. So these are very little things, but they have a very huge impact on your ability to fundraise. And that's exactly what we help our founders to really go through that, the pitch decks, 2-minute pitches, and then friendly pitches within the Product10x team. And we have a network of investors who would come in and provide that feedback. And that's really where you see the 3 segments that we absolutely focus on. Again, just to repeat, product-led growth is our core area for sure. Once you have a great product, make sure that we help you with the sales readiness. And then once you have the sales readiness angle in a type fashion, we also help you with the whole of the fundraise aspect of it.
Right. Thanks a lot for shedding light on the co-creation model and how Product10x is helping so many startups achieve their milestones.
Absolutely. Thank you, Niraj.
Thank you.